Hi there, folks. I'm Wayne Duvenage, and this is our OUTA weekly wrap for the 2nd of April. And while this week may feel quieter on the surface from a perspective of no hearings at the Madlanga Commission and the Parliamentary Ad Hoc Committee having wrapped up their interviews, silence in this space must never be mistaken for stability, because it remains hectic out there on the accountability, the transparency, and the maladministration front. So let's jump in. At the center of this week's focus is around the Madlanga Commission, even though it's in recess, because its web is just expanding around Kat Matlala's SAPS-linked tender scandal, with another name now entering into the mix, and that is of the one of Mike van Wyk. Now, before we go into this or any further into it, it's worth pausing and reflecting on who is Mike van Wyk. Well, he's the CEO of Medicare 24. This is this private emergency medical responses and medical services provider linked to this 360 million rand SAPS tender, which is under scrutiny, been featured a lot in the Madlanga Commission and in the Ad Hoc Committee. And he's now being mentioned in the Madlanga Commission and the Parliamentary Committee. Over the past week, his name and face appears in videos and relationships with others linked to dubious procurement and policing contracts. And this was unpacked, by the way, last weekend by Jeff Wicks from News 24 in a podcast that he put together. And it featured two videos in which Mike van Wyk was present. The first one, he appears to introduce Julius Mkhwanazi. This is the guy from the Metro, the Ekurhuleni Metro Police fame. He appears to be introducing a person by the name of George to Julius Mkhwanazi. Now, you know, this appears to be a role that he's playing, where he is influencing matters in this whole corruption space that involves Kat Matlala. And in that clip, George is described as somebody with transport problems, or so-called transport problems that Julius Mkhwanazi can help resolve. And he supposedly has connections with Tswane as well. So you've got to ask yourself, what do transport problems mean in that context? Is this administration? Is it something else completely different? In the second video, Mike van Wyk is outdoors, fanning himself with wads of 100 Rand notes and cash, and telling Julius Mkhwanazi to get hold of him. This is crazy. I mean, you know, Mike van Wyk has responded strongly after these videos were put out by Jeff Wicks, saying that these clips are taken out of context and that lives are being put at risk. I mean, we obviously don't want nobody wants anyone's life put at risk. But, you know, I guess the question here is, try as he may explain this, let's be honest. This is not how work is conducted with metros. This is not how legitimate above-board business interactions should look like. And so it is about these visuals. It does matter. And it's those visuals that shape the questions that need to be asked. So his responses just do not clarify his relationship. And it just deepens the questions that we have from society about him, and what is the nature of those interactions. Why even record videos like this? If he's trying to explain, which he was trying to do, that he was being silly, that's not how it's done. Especially when you're the CEO of a company that is involved in a 360 million Rand tender linked to Kat Matlala, and a very dubious one at that time. What do you expect the Commission or society to think, Mr. van Wyk? Just a quick note here, by the way, Jeff Wicks and Peter Louis Marburg were recognized with their Journalist of the Year award, a joint award made by a private company this week. This is absolutely well deserved by both these gentlemen. You know, for us, responsible tourism that exposes the rot, it's so dear to the fight against corruption. And we really need to thank all good investigative journalists out there. There are a lot of them doing excellent work. We salute you. Just please keep doing your work. And together with civil society, we make a lot of magic And that's certainly borne out in so much that's unfolding in outer space. That brings us to another unusual development which we saw this week, and that is one that pertains to a person known as Jermaine Prim. He's currently serving time for fraud and vehicle theft. But what's attracting a lot of media attention is that he is the author of an affidavit submitted to Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi, and recently this has been placed before Parliament's ad hoc committee. Prim also had a 27-minute interview with Heidi Giokos from ENCA. And this interview took place from a phone, a landline phone, within the prison complex. Not a cell phone, a landline inside the Johannesburg Correctional Centre. And it's that conversation with Heidi where he doubles down on his serious allegations, wherein he also mentions Gayton Mackenzie, the leader of the Patriotic Alliance, and Gayton's also the current Minister of Arts and Culture and Sport. It implicates, or his affidavit implicates, Gayton Mackenzie in links to criminal networks. Now, he claims the Patriotic Alliance was initially backed. This is Prim. He claims that the Patriotic Alliance is initially backed by the ANC to counter the DA in the Western Cape. He also references Katie Molefe, he's also accused of masterminding the murder of DJ Somebody, linked to other assassinations and a host of other criminal activities and drug supply networks. Sure, so, as you try and make sense of all of this, what we actually have here is another minister that is linked to affidavits wherein he's accused of influence and unsavory conduct. Of course, these are just allegations at this stage, and these must be tested. And we sincerely hope, though, that the Madlanga Commission is going to be interrogating these claims and these affidavits from Jermaine Prim, because he says he has a lot of evidence, emails, details, a lot of proof that connects the dots here. Gayton Mackenzie, on the other hand, has dismissed the claims and calls them baseless and refers to Prim as a madman and suggests that the call may have been spoofed. The question here is, when narratives start colliding like this, we need to cut through the noise, and this is best done through the Commission's work, as opposed to the ad hoc committee in Parliament, who, by the way, have wrapped up their questioning, and they appear to have missed some important oversight questioning with Prim. So we need to see these allegations now playing out in the Madlanga Commission. Hopefully they will pick it up, and because they've got broader powers, they can test these claims properly. And Prim says he has evidence. Well, we need to see this. We need to put this on record. He needs to put it on record and needs to be dealt with through the due process at the Madlanga Commission. Remember, Gayton Mackenzie has in the past celebrated the advent of the Madlanga Commission. He expressed his keen interest to even appear there. Watch this short video clip of Gayton Mackenzie, which came out a week after Mkhwanazi made his explosive media conference in July last year. Just have a look at this.
Mkhwanazi is blaming the minister Mchunu, the minister and them are blaming. So let's get to the truth of it. It's just that people must understand it's frustrating when you want action right now and you want things to happen. But the thing is so delicate that I'm telling you, what is going to come out of that? South Africans must be ready. I'm also going to testify at the commission because I know things. When they call me, I'm going. About these guns in the Western Cape that kills our people. This one is not get your popcorn ready. Go and get the popcorn factory ready because this thing, the corruption is going to come out of there.
Well, now, Gayton, your chance to appear before the Commission with your input may be combined with some questions and testimony in response to Jermaine Prim's allegations. So, as you say, maybe we need to all invest in a popcorn manufacturing entity because this is going to become lucrative business. We're certainly going to be watching this. Questions are now being asked that, well, if Mkhwanazi's affidavit and testimony gave rise to Senzo Mchunu's suspension, at what stage do these affidavits and allegations lead to the suspension of Gayton Mackenzie? Gayton Mackenzie. We're going to have to wait and see, especially when this commission returns to work in the next couple of weeks, and they'll be going on for another 5 to 6 months. We're looking forward to seeing some really big explosive stuff. There's a lot still to unfold at this commission. From OUTA's perspective, it's simple. Accountability just cannot be selective. It cannot depend on political convenience. Where serious allegations exist, they must be tested fully, independently, and consistently. So let's have a look and see what unfolds over the next couple of weeks. I think what's also important here to us as civil society is that while Jermaine Prim's allegations do need to be tested, we hope that he's being protected. Sure, we sincerely hope so, because these are damning allegations. What has surprised us, though, this week, or maybe we shouldn't be so surprised, is to hear the number of cell phones that are found on cellmates inside prisons and that are confiscated. 41,853 reportedly confiscated last year. That's an average of 112 a day. Just think about that. There should be no cell phones, not one in the prisons in the hands of cellmates. And yet in 1 year, 41,800 are confiscated. What is actually going on here? And that's just what we know of. Probably a lot more that they didn't confiscate, didn't get to. But it certainly speaks to how broken the system is. It certainly gives clear indication that people inside the system are involved here. They have to be. But I guess we've all known this for years. We've seen the stories of how criminals inside prisons are able to do their business, their crime, their continued extortion, and to continue to ply their trade even after being arrested. Now, we hear that Peter Groenewald, the Minister of Correctional Services, is dealing with this now, and he's announcing that there's going to be some new technology to deal with illegal cell phone use in prisons. And on the surface, this might sound like progress, but the question still is simply, how has this happened, and why is it taking so long? I mean, we hope that Minister Groenewald can give us all the confidence and the hard evidence that this is being addressed. We certainly know it never has been while there's been an ANC minister in correctional services. The incompetence has been profound. Maybe Groenewald can show us how it is supposed to be done. Let's see. There's another thread that feeds into this picture, and that is former chef of the now deceased taxi boss, Jotum Mswazi Msibi. That's not the chef's name, that's the taxi boss's name. But Msibi was linked to organized crime networks. Now his chef is willing to testify at the Madlanga Commission. Supposedly he's got a lot of information. And supposedly we hear that he alleges how EFF leader Julius Malema has allegedly and repeatedly visited CB's compound, often late at night. Lots of cash and expensive whiskey appears to have changed hands. But again, this is all allegations, and they have to be tested. And of course, Malema has denied wrongdoing. But when multiple witnesses start describing similar patterns, it becomes harder to ignore. And that's exactly why this commission's process is important and what it's meant to unpack. So again, we look forward to the next session of the Madlanga Commission as it comes back in the next week or so. On another development, in a testimony at the ad hoc commission committee that surfaced this week is Sarah Jane Trent's request to have her rather emotional testimony declared invalid. She cited post-traumatic stress at the time of giving her evidence, and we believe the committee chair has declined her request. So one can only speculate, why does she want her submission and her testimony removed? But let's not delve into speculation. It is just an interesting development, and I think it's important that the committee did decline that her evidence is scrapped. We also heard this week that Senzo Mchunu, the currently suspended police minister, has now resumed his political party duties with the ANC as an NEC member. Well, we're not surprised. Doesn't, it just makes us think, doesn't it? I mean, it certainly doesn't do the ANC any favors when it comes to speaking about rejuvenating the party and how it behaves. But anyway, let's see what unfolds with that. Good luck with returning to work for the ANC, Mr. Mchunu. We certainly hope, from what we've heard and what we've seen thus far, that you do not return as the Minister of Police. And we're still waiting for the President to announce what happens with him in that space. Let's turn to the courts now, because there's another important development which we learnt of this week, and that is former Presidents Jacob Zuma and Thabo Mbeki, who supported a bid to remove Justice Sisi Khampepe from overseeing the TRC-related inquiry into apartheid-era prosecutions. Well, the courts have found that their argument is biased, and they dismissed it. There have been no merit found in their claims. And that's very, very important. What this does, though, it goes to the heart of the TRC's litigation, which is to establish whether there was political interference in failing to prosecute apartheid-era crimes. So attempts to remove a sitting judge are not insignificant. And it's good to see how the judiciary has held the line in this matter, because allegations must be grounded, not just convenient. And this is a good sign. The courts have held the line, yes, and now let's see these TRC litigation processes unfold. Let's move now to financial performance questions of a state entity, this time SAA. Now, it's been in the news historically for the wrong reasons for so long now. But again, it rears its head this week, where we saw serious questions pertaining to its supposed recovery from its financial reporting. Remember, over the past, South Africans have already contributed 133 billion rand bailing South African Airways out. So when the current management claims that the airline has returned to profitability, something's wrong when the Auditor General says otherwise. Is this creative accounting? We hear of asset revaluations that start speaking to its supposed recovery, but this is not what the Auditor General tells us. She has heavily criticized SAA's results, and she's issued a disclaimer of opinion because she hasn't been able to obtain sufficient evidence of key financial indicators and figures. And now, what this does, it starts to raise questions about the reliability and the transparency of South African Airways financials and their figures and their performance. It potentially masks a financial loss, despite the airline's management claiming that it's become a profitable airline. This is not good. This doesn't instill trust from civil society in the way the state and entity is run. And we say it again, we've said it a number of times. Government must get out of the business of business. In other words, where it's trying to run an airline that operates in a very competitive space, and it's a complex business, running airlines. It's not the type of business that a government should be involved in. Like they did with Telkom. Telkom would have been dead today if they didn't get out of the business and get an equity partner involved and make sure it's run professionally. That's what needs to happen to SA, and we make that call again. And while this all unfolds and OUTA's work continues to happen on the ground, this week OUTA exposed a 39 million rand sewer infrastructure failure at Ekurhuleni. Here we see a lot of money has been spent, but there's no functional sewage pipeline. And residents in the area where this pipeline was supposed to provide these services continue to live amongst raw sewage. This is what government failure looks like in real terms, not just in headlines, not in politics, but just direct impact on the communities. This is really sick. And let's be clear here, there's a lot more to this. What we are seeing here, it's not about improper procurement. This points to deeper issues around how these projects are managed and handled by a metro like Ekurhuleni. Sanitation funds have not been managed. Oversight has completely failed on this project, and it really stinks, excuse the pun, but it is appearing to be a big fraudulent issue. So investigations will continue. Our comms team will keep you posted on the developments of the story as it unfolds. But again, local government failing, local elections coming up. Hopefully there's going to be some change in Ekurhuleni, because it has been and continues to be a poorly run metro. On energy matters, well, we reported last week that Eskom has extended their solar registration deadline, but we just want to remind the public, again, OUTA's position remains clear on this issue, and that is that installations that are compliant and safe with relevant qualified electrician compliance certification means that there is no justification for unnecessary registration or permissions that have to be obtained or additional costs that should be imposed on homeowners. Government's policies and state and entities' policies, and even municipal policies and their bylaws need to be practical. They need to be grounded in what is realistic and what their powers are over civil society. It is not acceptable, and we'll continue to fight in your corner as citizens, as homeowners, as business owners, for your rights not to be influenced or put under unnecessary pressure in the way that Eskom and municipalities are doing on this front. Let's just turn quickly to the horrific fuel price. I mean, it's crazy what has happened, but it's uncontrollable. We are at the mercy of international politics here. We're at the mercy of the weakening rand. And what we saw was our petrol prices were going to soar by close to 6 Rand a litre on petrol, close to 10 Rand a litre on diesel. And thank goodness the government did come very last minute and reduce the fuel levies by 3 and almost 4 Rand on diesel. What we felt, though, is the timing of the announcement could have been made a few days, up to a week earlier. And if they had have done so, it would have gone a long way to reducing the panic buying and the fuel shortages that arose and public anxiety that ensued. This is not just about the decision itself. It's about how decisions are made and communicated and the timing thereof. And we think that government really did mess up a little bit in this space. Let's turn to Joberg now. I mean, it's quite comical to see how these stories just write themselves. As we know, recently, you might have seen the video. If you haven't, look out for it. Helen Zille, the DA federal chairperson and the Joberg mayor contender, was snorkeling in a pothole in Douglasdale.
Welcome to Douglasdale at this wonderful snorkel pool that has been here for about 3 years, despite many attempts to fix it. When the grader comes in the dead of night so that people can earn overtime, they burst the pipe again. And here we are with a free and wonderful Saturday afternoon snorkel. I can even do the backstroke over here. Let's see if I can do that still. Backward doggy paddle. I get over here. Very nice. This pool has been here on and off for 3 years. It's the result of a burst pipe. It's kept bursting again and again and again. Neighbors can't get out of their driveways. People have asked for the council to come and fix it. They came and fixed it with a front end loader and burst the pipe again. This is what people have to live with in the city of Johannesburg.
It certainly got everyone's attention. And, it's not the kind of water you'd want to be anywhere near, let alone swim in it. But the big issue here is the response from the current executive mayor, Dada Morero, in Johannesburg.
We are here in Douglasdale, Balder Road, where Mrs. Zille was swimming. It's important to confirm, yes, there was a reported burst, and Joberg Water responded to the burst on the 29th of March, and they've been doing work to fix the steel pipe replace the steel pipe. We are aware that 3 years ago, the same area had a burst, but we want to encourage our customers, especially in the area, that as and when there's any burst, you need to report it immediately. Do not stand on the previous query that you logged. You have to log it as a new query so that in the system you can see that it has just arrived.
It was quite disastrous because he comes out blaming the residents for not reporting the pothole. I mean, he's just missed the point completely, hasn't he? A pothole that size, this big enough to swim in, has been there for a long time, Mr. Mayor. You know, for a video like that to be shot, it's probably been reported 100 times. And the public is not looking for your explanations. They're looking for action. You know, we launched an infrastructure reporting app and went to the city and begged them to use it free of charge, where citizens can report easily infrastructure breakdown of this nature. Traffic lights, lines that are missing, trees that have fallen, potholes, water leaks, and they turned it down. You know, they make it deliberately difficult for you to report infrastructure breakdown. We've seen this. In fact, I personally have responded in our family to the city to report streetlights that are out, and we get an SMS the next day, thank you for reporting, it's been fixed. And it hasn't been fixed. They just fob you off. So to you, Mr. Morero, Mr. Mayor, your city declines to pursue these things. We know that, so don't blame your residents. Doesn't hold any water. You need to get the right people to administer the work that has to be done. Stop blaming the citizens. You appointed the MMC for roads, Joberg Roads Agency, not us. So just hold people to account. It's crazy. Really, you're just shooting yourself in the foot when you start behaving in this way. Let's wrap up. Let's wrap up now. Look, this week didn't need live hearings from the Commission or the ad hoc committee. The incidents just continued to flow. The pressure continues to mount. And it's us, the public, that suffer at the consequences of bad leadership, bad management. We are the ones that suffer when criminal justice system continues to play out in the way it has. We see it every day in the lives of people that live in communities, individuals, and our crime just continues to run rampant. Oversight processes continue to just remain under strain. Millions of rands of public money lost daily, plundered daily. We really need to see this question answered. How is it that we cannot see the political will to change the situation, to start taking shape? Where is the political will? Because this is not difficult to fix, but it requires politics, the politicians from the top, from the mayor's office, from every position of authority in government, to start calling for meaningful action and correction to this dire situation that we find ourselves in every single day. Because accountability that is delayed or inconsistent or is being selective is just not accountability at all. So as we head into the long weekend, all we can suggest, take some time out to rest. Let's get some sanity back into our lives and enjoy time with family and friends. My goodness, don't we need it all? And if you're traveling, do so safely. Until next time, stay alert and stay connected with us as we work together with you to get corruption out of here. Cheers.